at what point did this become part of your business? So you're in school, you're learning the hard skills of a graphic designer. You obviously went into school wanting to be a graphic designer. At what point did you realize communication was important? Was it like with your teachers, like being able to communicate to your teachers and understand what they want? Like I always joked, we had this teacher, Mr. DeGangi, you know him, and he loved Bauhaus. He loved like Vanelli. And literally if you did something that looked like Vanelli's, you'd get an A.
Yeah.
Right? So like at what point did you realize that this communicative process was your bread and butter?
Ooh, that's a good question. Looking back, I can see notes of it in school, right? I always tell people that graphic design school taught me like what you said, hard skills, right? They taught me the things that like, this is how you operate, you know, other than, I don't think a lot of communication was taught, but I think that where I see notes is like communicating with a professor, communicating with, you know, a team that we're doing a project together, right?
Yeah.
And it does seem different than what actual communication is, but the expectation of a professor is not too different than the expectation of a CEO or a founder, or a marketing manager, whoever you're communicating with. But the caveat or the difference is the professor already knows what the end result needs to look like for the most part.
Yeah, they've seen so many pieces of
They've
work.
seen it, and you're not being graded on a school grading scale in real life, right? It's completely different because the stakes are high. Like I build an identity for a project in school, and 2 months later that, you know, 11 by 17 that has all the design on it is in the garbage, right?
Yeah, totally.
And nobody ever sees it.
Totally.
It's different than the stakes being, and why I communicate and want them to be involved in the process is I don't want you to have to come back in 5-10 years and redo all this work or rethink things. Like that's why having the client so involved is important to me.
But again, my big question to that is, for students who are in school right now, how do they start to sharpen those soft skills? Do they start talking with their teachers in like they're their client?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. And honestly, like I think it's really hard to think back to school.
Yeah.
It hasn't been that long. It's been less than 10 years.
Yeah.
But I think that there was a lot of that in school where, you know, if you don't understand the assignment, talk to your teacher, or like when you have concepts, like run them by your peers or whatever it is. And so learning to communicate in that way. But what I don't remember is there being a lot of like very specific, like when you have a concept, this is how you need to explain it, or this is, you know, and I think that's more of an understanding of like by experience when a client is asking the same question over and over again, like you understand that's a question I need to answer up front, you know? But yeah, I think for a student that like learning to communicate, that's the biggest part of real life work to me. And I don't exactly know what that needs to look like with a professor. That's not the same kind of communication you have with a client.